All right, so it's Friday, April 17th, and I had just got back from a run. I had worked 4 hours in the morning. I went on a run. I come back, and apparently Claude Design is a thing. I don't know if this happened while I was working and I didn't see it because I was in my flow state, but apparently Claude dropped a design tool. So I've used a ton of design tools powered by AI. I've used Paper. I have used Wonder, the newest tool this week. I've tried to use some other tools as well that I'm not going to name because they were so bad, but I have tried a lot of AI design tools. None of them deliver, not any of them. They can get you about 60% there, but if you don't have design expertise or any kind of idea of what you actually want, you're never going to actually get anywhere that you want to get in terms of like a competitive landscape. If you're just doing an MVP or you're just launching a basic website or you're just getting started, they're better than not having anything. They're better than a cheap graphic designer or whatever. But if you're actually trying to take it to that next level, AI just isn't there yet. But Claude just came out with Claude Design. This is a new experimental tool that they dropped. I wanted to create a video on my initial impressions using this tool. I remember doing this all the way last year with Figma Make when they first launched their design AI, and this was the first actual high fidelity design AI tool back in the day was Figma's Make. No one else could replicate that. So when they dropped that, I did the same thing. I made a video day of. We're gonna do the same thing today. So we're gonna create something. I'm working on a project right now. I'm gonna emulate something like that. It's spec project, so it's not any kind of client work. So we can do that. So this is the interface. I haven't used it yet, as you can see. So it looks like you could set up a design system, so that's pretty cool. I wonder if that's per project or how that works, if it's like a library. So we can build prototypes, a slide deck from template or other. So it looks like it's prioritizing prototypes, slide decks, and templates. Animation, timeline-based motion design, that's pretty interesting. Animation-based motion design, that sounds pretty complex. So what we can do is we'll do the new slide deck. And this kind of wasn't the idea I had, but we're going to do a pitch deck. So pitch deck. And then we could do a pitch deck for Pilot. So I'll feed it that design system. So we'll create that project. And now what I'm really trying to figure out here is does this work for clients? Like, can clients use this, or is this going to work for designers and firms and agencies, etc.? Who is this for? That's really what I'm trying to figure out here. Is it for a designer to get started, or is it for a startup founder with a team less than 5 who needs something, anything? So it looks like creations will appear here. Start with context, design system, add screenshot. Okay, so it wants you to add in a Figma file. It's literally asking for a Figma file. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to go get the design system. I'll be right back. All right, so I dragged in some assets from Pilot. It's basically not the full style guide or branding guidelines or anything like that. I really want to test how much context you need to give it. I gave it segments of a branding guideline. It's more of a example of a branding guideline. So we have the colors, the color family, the typography. We also have, I believe, we gave it some existing photos of stationary mock-ups that we created. We also showed it the logo, but we gave it the logo, but we gave it into an all white. So we want to see if we can actually play with that. And these are all PNGs. So I'm really interested to see how actually high fidelity this comes out. If it's actually creating stuff, or if it's repurposing what you give it, or if it's doing both, this is what we're going to do. So describe what you want to create. So I'm going to describe it, a pitch deck that fits what we're trying to establish with Pilot in 2026 for Q3 and 4. So I'm going to write that out, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I added some more assets to it so that it actually has the SVGs, because I thought about the fact that it has a PNG, which I'm just going to remove, actually. I gave it the SVGs for the logo. I made sure that the typography is uploaded. I uploaded it in a PDF. I wanted to see if it can read PDFs very well, because there's a lot of fine text. So we still have the same stuff there. We have logo presentation, so it knows what the logo is supposed to look like, the color families, stationary mock-up. I didn't give it any illustrations, and I didn't give it anything else. So I'm giving it the bare minimum here. I'm trying to strategically choose what I would give Claude Code versus what I would give like a freelance designer that I just hired. And it's going to be like a low effort, a low quality kind of partnership where you get the bare minimum as a designer and you have to show up and design. On top of those two things that I also added a prompt that was pasted as text because it was 44 lines. So you're not going to see it here, but it's right there. And then I also pasted text that has, as you can see, the contents. It has all of the actual copy there. So both the prompt and the copy was obviously created by AI. I'm not writing all that. So it has the content, the copy, the outline. So it knows everything. All it has to do is design it. That's all it has to do. So we're not making it do all these different things and juggling all these different hats. It has all the assets. It doesn't have to create anything from brand new scratch. It has the assets. It has the color family. It has the typography family. It has the context of the prompt. It has the goals, everything it has. So we're going to send this now. I don't know if having all this stuff pasted together is going to ruin it or if it's going to be able to kind of organize it and whatever, but we're going to see here. So let's check it out. We're going to click send. So freeze gum with an ice cube for 2 minutes. It peels right off shoes. Okay, so it has random useful facts, which is interesting. I do like the design. It feels a little old school, but I do think that's Claude's whole entire shtick. Is I think they're trying to keep things a little less sassy technology and more just front forward and consumer friendly. So more serif fonts and these like super duper radial curved corners, and it looks like we have comments, which is interesting. So we got the deck stage. So it's creating scripts, which is pretty interesting. Folder, so it's organizing assets here. It looks like it's thinking out loud at a conflict in the brief user provided pilots brand assets. Okay, so I'm going to let this run. I'm not going to sit here and try to talk over this. I have no idea how long this is going to take. I'm going to time it though right now. So we're going to see how long this takes to come out with the first iteration. So I will come back when that's ready to go. Alrighty, so we are back. And it's finished, and it took a whopping 16 minutes and 18 seconds. I don't know if you could see that. 16 minutes and 18 seconds to completely do this entire slide deck of 15 slides using everything that we provided it. So a couple of interesting things happened during this. The first thing is that because LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude can only do so many things before it has to reset its token or its memory, I noticed that it repacked its own token usage, which if you're familiar with Claude Code, you know what that means. But essentially what that means is you have about 1 million tokens with Opus 4.7, a little bit more actually. And then once you reach that threshold, you have to pack and consolidate all of the context into a prompt, which it does it automatically. And then that prompt allows it to reset the token back to 0. And then it uses that prompt to continue forward without any kind of getting in the, like just stopping things or giving you an error or something like that. So it did that automatically. Second thing, I purposely didn't feed it the actual typography or the actual typeface files to Claude because I didn't want to. I wanted to see what it would fall back to, since I gave it a premium typeface, which was Neural Grotesque. So it looks like it defaulted to like a generic sans font, maybe Enter or something like that. So yeah, those two things I thought were interesting. This actually looks like Arial. I think it told me somewhere. Yeah, Arial. Okay, so first glance, this is the first slide. I'm not like super convinced this is a great design tool, but I am convinced that this is a great tool for, say, investor-facing slide decks or internal decks or internal documents that don't need to look great. Usually you have two kinds of assets or creatives that you have for a company. You have customer or client facing, and then you have internal and back end facing. So the customer and client facing assets are going to be the ones that are really beautified, look great, feel great, have a bunch of wow moments and brand moments. And that's because it establishes trust with the customers and it looks great. So if it looks great, customers and clients imagine that you invest in your company and you have money to invest. So this is definitely a more internal document, meaning that people outside of the company or outside of investors and venture capital companies aren't going to see this. Funny thing is about pitch decks is there's like a kind of weird sentiment that exists where if you have a good looking pitch deck or a good looking deck in general as a series A or a pre-seed or a seed startup, it's because you don't have a good product. So it's kind of this weird conundrum, but basically you don't have to have a great looking deck if it's going to be internal is my point. And this isn't great looking at all. In fact, it looks really basic. It looks outdated in terms of design. So I don't have a lot of faith in the design capabilities outside of just the bare minimum basics. I also noticed that it did not use the SVG logos that we gave it. I also am noticing that it's not really using the brand elements that we provided it. So So it's possible that we just gave it way too much at the beginning. Maybe it's more iterative, like say the Claude Code when building a website. Maybe it doesn't want to do everything at once, like you would hand off to a designer. You'd say, here's all of our brand assets, here's our brand guidelines, here's all the files and assets that you would need, here's the context of the deck, here's the mission of the deck. Please make us a deck. It isn't like that where you just hand it to a designer and they have all the context and are able to create something. It's more of a, you create it by slide what it looks like. I also want to preface this, or I guess I can't preface it because we're like 8 minutes in now, but I do want to say this isn't a review or any kind of, this isn't me telling you how great of a software Claude Design is. First of all, it's still experimental. It just came out literally an hour ago, and it's going to grow and just get better and better from here on out. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this tool sucks because I'm not actually giving it all my all. I'm not trying to get into all the nooks and crannies. I'm just showing you the first version of it from a designer's perspective, from a creative director's perspective. So a couple of things before I end the video. I want to see just how practical the Claude Design app is. So it does look like we can make tweaks up here. We can comment, we can edit, we can draw, we can we can even present from here. And you also have speaker notes. So it looks like you can actually just use Claude Design, the app, just to actually present if you want to. I'm not seeing any kind of like additional things that you would see outside of the bare minimum here. So we can export it. So the UI is kind of getting taken up here by my browser elements. So I can't really click it right now, but I think you can export it as like a PowerPoint presentation, maybe a Google Slides presentation as well. All right, so the first thing I want to try is, I'll just show you the deck so far. So this is the first page. We're just going to go through it. A nice bold. So, okay, we have some grids going on. Copy looks all right. Everything is legible. Made a graph that looks pretty decent. Okay, we have some radial graphs as well. It's color coding, has a quote. Okay. The typography is disgusting. I just hate the way the typography looks. Okay, so we have some good looking stuff here. And by good looking, I mean it's good for just how quick, 15 minutes. Okay, so that's all 15 slides. The first thing I want to do is I want to see what the tweaking workflow looks like. So if we click edit, I wonder if we can, you could just edit right in the app. See, this is huge. One of my biggest complaints when creating the Sprintly website with Claude Code was that everything had to be changed either from going into the code directly and changing it, or you had to tell Claude what to do, where to do it, how to do, not how to do it, but if you wanted it to be like a certain way, you would tell it how you want it presented. So it wasn't as easy as getting in there and just like changing it. Like if I wanted to change this to like Claude Design, I could just do that right in this tool. That is huge. They need to add this functionality in Claude Code as soon as possible because that is awesome. This is stuff that you can do in something like Cursor or Bubble. So that does exist, but Claude Code doesn't have a native tool for that. I think if I can create something like that, it will multiply the amount of efficiency that you get from Claude Code. So you can edit right in here. It looks like you can edit a lot of different stuff from color to the typeface that you're using to weights, alignment, opacity, even the padding, margins. So it looks like it has all the basic stuff that you would see from PowerPoint. So that's pretty cool. I wonder what tweaks does. So that's Claude to add sliders or options. Okay, so it looks like here you can add tweaks. So let's say I want to add a illustration that represents this tool on the first slide, and we'll send, and it looks like that's going to happen right here. So I'll pause, come back when that's finished. All right, so we're back with the illustration. It took about 2 minutes, and so it looks like it did create an illustration. The illustration isn't horrible. It looks pretty neat. It redistributed the text so that it aligns better with the new additional stuff. It looks like we have options that we can choose from, which I think is pretty cool, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen that kind of integration before. So we'll keep it orbital data for now. But this is the illustration that it created after 2 minutes, and every time you do something, it does a verification of it. So it looks like it made a bunch of versions of that. So that is Claude Design, the new tool that just came out on April 17th, 2026. This is my first use of it. I have never been in this tool before, so you can use Claude Code to create a slide deck given the correct elements, I suppose. It again does not represent the brand identity at all. It's using the complete wrong colors, even though we did give it the color system and the exact hex codes and the use cases of each color. So I would rate this based on my first impression a 6 out of 10. This would be a great tool for doing internal documentation, internal visuals, internal decks, internal elements and assets. In terms of external, I'm not too sure. So my intuition tells me that maybe if you actually build up a cohesive context window that has the style guides and you get in there and actually do all the tweaks and you set everything up, maybe it can do really good external facing things as well. So I'm not going to give any kind of actual score to it yet. I definitely want to dig into it more, understand how exactly you can pivot this to be much more aligned with brand and assets and stuff like that. But overall, I do give it a 6 after my first impression. So definitely give it a try. If you are a startup founder or a small business owner and you don't really have the money or even time maybe to invest into a designer, then this is the second best option that you have. It's better than anything else that exists right now. And I could say that 100% like with conviction that this is going to be better than most stuff. It is possible that you could do this with something like paper, but I don't have a lot of faith in it at this moment because it's still so young and in infancy. So that's it. Give it a try. Let me know if you guys experience anything else, and that's been it. See y'all.